Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Football Pyramid Talk podcast. We're back with Simon. He's made a return, and we've also got the regular in Sterling back with Premier League and Championship football after the international break. So we will be going through that action this episode and covering them all into detail, and hope you enjoy as per usual. Thank you for the support over the last couple of episodes. Been massively appreciated. And let's just crack straight into it. I'll start off with you, Simon. Concerning result on the weekend. A 2-1 loss to Manchester United at home at Anfield. I mean, it was a very surprising loss. I mean, in terms of, in my opinion anyway, before kick-off, I never would have thought Liverpool were going to lose that game, but it just looked Man United were more up for it in the end.
Yeah, it was a really strange performance. I mean, before the game, nobody really would have predicted that United would have played like that. I mean, Bruno Fernandes for the first 10 minutes was running around with his hair on fire, and I thought to myself, there's no way he could keep that up. But to be fair to him, he kept it up for most of the game, which made the fact that Casemiro can't run at all irrelevant almost. It was interesting to watch Jamie Carragher on the Monday Night Club talking about the problems that Liverpool have got, really trying to fit all these new signings into the team. It's obviously disrupted the team. And his sort of opinion was that they probably want to put all of the players in, really. And it was interesting that last night they'd done just that. You know, they'd found a way to get Ekitike and Isak up front. They also had Wirtz in there as well. Frimpong as well before he went off with yet another injury. So I think that might be the approach that he takes going forward, to be honest with you. Kirkes looked again like a rabbit caught in the headlights at times. He tries too hard. But I think that you can say that for the whole team. There was a stat in the Telegraph last week that was talking about the where Liverpool are taking their shots compared to last season, and they're taking their shots much further out than they were last season. You know, that might be because Salah's obviously not hitting the straps that he did last season. That might be affecting it. But when you see players taking shots from further out than they did last season, that indicates really that they're trying too hard. They're not relaxing and trying to trust the process and get the ball into dangerous areas. They're thinking, I've got to try and have a go here. And I think that's really what Liverpool's problem is, a combination of lots of different things. And getting beat at home by United, not ideal in the slightest. And those injuries, Isak went off last night with a groin problem. That sort of thing, you're looking at 3 to 4 weeks to recover from. You got another international break coming up, so he might not be available till after that. Goodness knows what Graham Potter's going to do with him now that he's in charge of Sweden. And then you've got, it won't be long after that when Salah goes off to the African Cup of Nations. So you hope that Frimpong's injury isn't a serious one, that he's back in time for that. But they're sort of almost like first world problems Liverpool have got, really. They showed their class yesterday. And one of the things that Slot's been going on about is the fact that they don't score enough goals from set pieces, and they put that to bed last night resoundingly. Although, having said that, Konate looked almost surprised that the ball was about to hit him on the head when he scored his goal. It did make me chuckle. But it just showed you that they're being coached to get into the right places on the pitch. So hopefully just a blip for Liverpool.
Yeah, it was rubbish marketing for some of those goals last night, but touch on the United game. I think Liverpool look a bit easy to play through in the middle, and I don't know whether that's just because Wirtz is playing now. Liverpool didn't play much with a 10 last season, did they? It was more like a flat three in midfield. So I think that could potentially be part of the problem. But they look easy to play through. United, that first goal was so easy to get through. It was one ball up the field, and then they won the second ball. don't know what Virgil was doing.
No,
Leads me,
yeah,
it leads me on to my other point that Liverpool just look easy to play through. At the back, very susceptible. Virgil, he pointed to Canate for him to pick it up, but
too late, wasn't it?
it was too late, and it was his man to deal with. Canate had another one which was surprising and uncharacteristic of Virgil, but credit to Man United, I thought they were really good.
Yeah,
They definitely rode their luck a bit though, didn't they?
yeah. How many times did Gakpo at the post? 3 times, was it? So
Sometimes, yeah, and then he got a goal.
yeah,
But they attacked really well, and they have got quite a fluid front three or four, like Cunha, Mbemo, Mount, and who was
that's
the other one? Diallo.
mm,
That's a really fluid front four, and then you add Bruno Fernandes to it. You can see how they'll hurt teams.
mm,
It'll be interesting to see whether they carry on going in that direction rather than Sesko being up front, because I mean that doesn't give them much of an outlet in terms of a target forward, but I think that worked really well for them because they were interchanging quite nicely.
yeah. I saw on the stats on Monday Night Football. They didn't really have the ball on the floor, so Amarin usually tries to play out, but against Liverpool on the weekend, he just went route one really and tried to pick up the second balls, which sort of stopped what Arne Slot wanted to do against Man United. So it was quite a good tactical structure that Amarin had to sort of outwit Arne Slot's shape. So it was
It
a very
worked perfectly in the first minute.
yeah, exactly.
They
Well,
won the ball in transition high up the field, and
yeah,
that's it. When they get in those areas, they've got the players to give those combinations to each other and find goals like they did.
yeah, exactly that. And you know, 2 wins in a row for them. First time Amarin's got back-to-back wins in the Premier League, which is quite a shocking stat from his point of view. But it's good to see that he's actually got it over and done with. But hopefully Brighton can ruin that winning streak on the weekend at Old Trafford. We'll have to see how that goes on because that'll be quite an interesting game now. I mean, Brighton usually dominate United week in, week out whenever they play them. So now that United have got 2 wins in a row, could it change the factor of how that game goes? We'll have to wait and see. But
I think
yeah,
Brighton have not lost to United in the last 8 games, and I don't see that changing at the weekend. I really don't.
I don't think that's right because they beat us in the final game of the season, De Zerbi's last season. But
uh,
it's three in a row at Old
Yeah,
Trafford,
mm,
and it's like one loss in the last eight, I think.
nothing
yeah,
like that.
yeah,
But three in a row at Old Trafford, four if we win on the weekend.
Mm. I don't think Brighton have
But
got
yeah,
anything to fear against playing United, and I think Brighton
uh,
that system that Brighton play is well suited to counteracting United. I do think that with the two wide players. So I think it'd be good if Matone was fit again
yeah.
for the Brighton United game. That would be great.
Yeah, it moves us nicely on to the game on the weekend, doesn't it? We all went to the old 2-1 win against Newcastle. Big result at home. Hersler's liking winning against the big teams. What's that? Man City, Chelsea, and Newcastle now, and we've lost to was it Everton and Bournemouth, which shows sort of Brighton in a nutshell at the start of this season. But a really good performance from Brighton, I thought, especially in that second half. Even though we did concede, but I think we were defensively resolute at some points, even though that Walter goal was an absolute joke. That flick was absolute filth.
just
To
have to hold your hands up to
yeah,
that.
that's why I'm usually quite pissed off in the ground when a team scores, but for a rare occasion, I just went, "That's unbelievable," because we all sit in the north stand, and I'm guessing we all had a great view. I definitely did. He just absolutely outwitted Verbruggen. He would have never have seen that coming. So yeah, but what did you think of the performance from Brighton overall? Because overall, I thought it was a very professional performance to get 3 points.
Yeah, best performance of the season all round.
Mm.
we've had times in the season where we've looked really good in games, and then same game there'll be a patch where we look rubbish or look really susceptible for one reason, but it was throughout the whole 90 minutes really strong, started well, got ourselves in front after battling. It was a really good game overall, and then went 1-1 late on, but it could have gone 2-1, even 3-1 before that. 2-0, 3-0 for Brighton before that, and then when they did eventually equalise it, we got up the other end and score. So it was good, good mentality from the boys to keep fighting, and I think it was just solid all round. Kept it ticking nicely. There's more pace in our attacking,
Mm.
and the patterns and the runs were really good to see. I mean, I've seen it throughout the season, but I know people have questioned what the identity is, and I think you saw it there with the exchanging of the fullbacks and the wingers, especially when De Kuiper came on. And him and Kadioglu were swapping a lot, and then
Yeah.
the underlaps and overlaps, particularly saw it for the second goal.
Mm.
Weaver making that
Yeah.
underlapping run in
Mm.
the 80 something minute
Mm.
says it all, really. It was really good. It was a really good day, actually. It's phenomenal goals all round and come away with the win, so buzzing.
Yeah, I think that word pace is an important thing. I think when the pace of the delivery for the second goal was so important, that's what they've been guilty of not doing at times, I think, this season. But that ball it was Ayari that pinged it in, wasn't it? Pinged it into
Yeah.
Weaver.
Phenomenal.
It was
Real.
vision to see it, but it needed to be played at pace. So this goes back to what we've spoken about before, which is something that De Zerbi was instrumental in bringing into the squad, I think, was to have the courage to play that sort of ball. Because when
Yeah.
Ayari gets that ball, there's lots of easier passes on than that one. And the only way that really works is if it's delivered at pace, because Weaver is bombing in there for that ball to be delivered to him at pace. But you've got to just take your hat off to Danny Welbeck. I mean,
Yeah.
on the Albion Unlimited, on the Albion Unlimited podcast, they had a United fan on there talking about the weekend's game, and he
Yeah.
basically said we take Welbeck back in a heartbeat,
Yeah.
and that he was heavily linked with them apparently a couple of years ago. But when
Mm.
you look at his stats, he's obviously played at big clubs like United and Arsenal, but he's the majority of his career now is at the Albion. So
Yeah.
Played the most games for Brighton. He scored the most goals for Brighton than any other team.
yeah,
And he's Brighton legend now at this point, isn't he?
I think he is, and I think if it wasn't for the fact that Kane is in the form of his life, he would definitely be figuring in England conversations because he's scoring more goals than the people that are contending to be deputy to Kane. And I think it's only his age that probably would mean that he wouldn't want to go if Tuchel did decide to call him up. But I don't underestimate how difficult that first goal was, tipping it over Pope. He's a big guy, as we all know. And he came
Mm.
herring off his line as soon as he saw that Ruta had played him in. And he's a big target to try and get it over. And we've seen too many Brighton players fluff their lines at that stage, but he showed his quality there. He really was outstanding.
Yeah. Yeah. Tidy finish as well, wasn't it?
Unbelievable finish. Yeah, he loves a goal against Newcastle as well, to be
Yeah.
fair. He actually does.
Liked it at the end, didn't he? With the old, especially the first one where he sort of gave the Newcastle fans a bit of a word, didn't he?
Right in front of him, yeah.
Right in front of him. There's been like TikToks about him saying about how he's a Mackham at art and stuff like that, which you gotta love. But we'll move on to something you wanted to talk about, Sterling. Arsenal go top after a win away at Fulham. It wasn't. I mean, I watched the game. It wasn't the most pretty game of football, but it just shows that if you can grind out results, it's a sign of possibly becoming the champions.
Yeah, it's the thing that champions do, when they're not at their best, they get results, and it's what Arsenal did. I was on Twitter looking at Brighton stuff after the game whilst this was going on, and I saw the trending, and Trossard was trending, and I went on it, and they were slagging him off, the Arsenal fans, saying he's not good as a starter. He's having a rubbish game, all this and that, and we obviously got back late from being at the Brighton game, so I didn't see all of it, but
Mm.
I don't know. I just saw him put the ball in the back of the net, to be honest, and
Yeah.
it's another goal from a set piece. So he
Yeah.
shut those fans up with that, and yeah, another goal from a set piece. Arsenal aren't a good team to watch, really. I always get excited because I quite like Arsenal, and quite like their team and their players.
Mm.
So I get excited to watch them, and their games are they're terrible. I'm sorry for the neutral, they're absolutely terrible. I know Arsenal fans won't care because they're getting results, but
Yeah.
to a degree, I get it. You want them to win if you're an Arsenal fan, but to a degree, you want to see nice football as well, don't you? And I think that would piss me off a little bit, or maybe not piss me off because, as I said, they're winning, but
Yeah.
it would give me probably less satisfaction than it would if they were playing teams off the park and then winning. You know, like if it was Brighton, for example. Yeah, it's a weird one with Arsenal, but 3 points clear at the top anyway.
Well, that song 1-0 to the Arsenal isn't a cliche for no reason. It's one that they've been singing for donkey's years. They're
Yeah.
just not, they're not entertainers. I don't understand what it is, like you're saying, Sterling. With that team, you do sit down and think, oh, this is going to be a tasty game. And then I've just felt on Saturday, Fulham settled for being beaten 1-0. I really did. They must be a depressing team to turn up to watch because they didn't lay a glove on Arsenal, really. And again, another set piece goal. It just boggles my mind that nobody picks that Gabriel up because he set the goal up for Trossard.
Yeah, it was a good flip.
I mean,
Yeah.
he's just not getting picked up by people, and I don't get it. I mean, it's not as if he's hard to spot.
Yeah, what you said actually reminded me on that book that I'm reading, somewhat slowly, but and that you've read, that Fever Pitch. He's an Arsenal fan, isn't he? And he speaks in detail, which I think is why I'm struggling to get through it, about Arsenal games specifically, which is still a good book. I do enjoy it, but he speaks in depth about how in those 70s, 80s, 90s, how they were just a boring team to watch. Maybe not so much in the 90s with the Invincible team when it was late 90s, wasn't it, Dan?
2000s, that was.
Early 2000, but probably had that squad
Yeah,
late
yeah.
90s, some of them. But anyway, like 70s, 80s, that they were just a boring side to watch, and everyone knew them as that.
Yeah, I mean, you wouldn't get other fan bases accepting that. You know, if they tried to play that sort of way at Tottenham, you'd get the fans on your back straight away. And there's absolutely no way that teams like United and Liverpool fans would put up with their team playing like that. But Arsenal sort of embrace it. They annoy me a little bit, Arsenal, because I do think they play with their handbrake on a little bit. But I think Arteta is that cerebral sort of manager that will. He's not managing that game so much as the next 3 games down the line. And I think
Yeah,
once he realised Fulham had just settled for being beaten 1-0, it was a case of taking the foot off the pedal and making sure he didn't make any mistakes. It was an awful game to watch. Absolutely dreadful.
Yeah, I think they've scored more set pieces than actual open play goals, which kind of just sums it up in itself, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Like, and then talk about the set pieces, and then their general play in general is just absolutely dull as anything. Like you said, Sterling, and you, Simon, as well. When they're on like Super Sunday or late night soccer Saturday, you just they promote it like it's going to be an absolutely worldy game. It's going to be like 3, 4, 5, 6 goals in it. Do you know what I mean? And then you see it's Arsenal turning up, and you probably don't expect more than 2 goals, do you? Just because they're so. You got to give it to them. They're very defensively resolute, aren't they? They don't concede a lot of goals. They've only conceded 3 goals so far this season in the Premier League, and that's a very, very good stat. Not a lot of teams can defend that well, just in general, can they? So, yeah, they're just I think Arsenal fans won't mind either as well, just because of how poorly they've been doing in the past couple of years. So now they're they're actually getting up the table, picking up some decent results. I don't think they'll probably care. Like I definitely think they'll have that factor in their mind that the football's just boring to watch and it's quite dull. But they know they're going to have the possibility of getting 3 points on the board, which
Yeah.
sort of just puts that out of their mind, if you get what I mean. So,
Um,
yeah, I mean, I don't know about Trossard. I mean, he's just goal was literally a tapping at the back post. So,
yeah.
what you said, Sterling, about his performance being dreadful, probably got sort of like hidden under the table just because of he got on the score sheet.
Yeah, definitely.
No, I don't. Go on, go on.
I was just going to say I agree with what Dad says. It is annoying about Arsenal, really, because they've got such a good team. I don't get why they play like that. But what are you going to say about Trossard?
I was going to say that when Trossard scored, it was his first Premier League goal of the season, and the Arsenal fans started singing Trossard again. I was like, that doesn't even make sense. Trossard
Idiots, mate.
scored his first goal of the season. I didn't get that, but we'll move on to our last game we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about, I can't really ignore it, 6-goal thriller, Palace versus Bournemouth. I think Bournemouth will be very disappointed to go away from that game without a win. But Mateta with a hat trick, but I think he'll be massively disappointed not to get a quadruple if you saw the highlights.
Yeah, he had a goal disallowed as well, which weren't on the Prem highlights, were they?
Yeah,
Because we were looking at it in the stadium, weren't we, on our phones? And Brighton had just scored, and 2-1. You're thinking, get in there. Bournemouth 3-2. But I think before Bournemouth went 3-2, Palace went 3-2. And we were like, oh gosh. And then it got crossed out. So yeah, it was a bit of a whirlwind game. I just think Bournemouth, I mean, scoring in the 89th minute to go 3-2 up is one thing when you go on to then not win the game. But you look at the manner of the goals they conceded. I watched the highlights. They were shocking goals that Palace scored. You know, the defending was really bad. It just looked really scrappy. They weren't nice goals that they went on and scored. So yeah, I think Bournemouth will be disappointed with that, and obviously Palace will be buzzing 90 plus 7th minute. And they keep scoring late, which is a good trait to have, unfortunately, as Brighton fans.
Just go to show the spirit in the team, really, that they score late goals, because they're obviously working for each other and for the manager. And I know you're saying that they were bad goals to concede, but Mateta could have won it at the end. He had the best, easiest chance of the lot was the one that he missed to make it 4-3. It was unbelievable.
That was a sitter.
Unbelievable miss.
That was a sitter.
And we're talking about
just even though he got an hat trick, he was like throwing the ball all over the place because that was probably the easiest chance he had in the game. He guided.
Yeah, and you compare him to Welbeck and the difficulty of the chances that Welbeck's converting, because even that second goal at the weekend wasn't easy. You see players, it's from the edge of the box. You see players blamming them over the bar. So you think that in terms of difficulty, that first one for Welbeck was probably an 8 out of 10. The second one was a 7 out of 10, and then Mateta's just missing open goals. It's just weird. But I think that's the tribute to Glasner, really. He's got them playing for him and for each other. They got the kudos of the European games as well. So whether they can keep that momentum going, really.
Yeah. It's just quickly before we move on, you compare some of those goals that Palace scored, and then probably the pick of the bunch out of the weekend was that Matty Cash pass to Digne touch, and then when Dia finished, that was absolutely ridiculous. I thought we got to mention that.
Yeah, that was absolutely outrageous. I remember saying I didn't watch the game. I watched the first half actually, but then I think they were the early kickoff on the.
It was two. Yeah, it was two.
Yeah, I had a game, so but I saw on the highlights that I think the pass was outrageous, and then that touch was an absolute joke. I mean, how he got his leg that high and then he throws it's ridiculous. And then Buendia hits it on his weaker foot as well to score. It's like
Unbelievable scenes.
unbelievable goal. But yeah, that'll definitely be up there for goal of the month, won't it? And then in the turn of events, we'll just touch on it briefly as well. Deitch in as the Forest manager now. I remember me and my dad walking into the Amex and we just see Ange Postecoglou just standing in the middle of the centre circle, not even walking around the pitch, just clapping the fans from the centre circle. Not one Forest player went to him. And yeah, I mean,
if I was a betting man, I would have bet heavily on him getting the sack, whatever had happened on Saturday.
yeah.
Listening to his press conferences before the matches, before that match, he sounded like a condemned man. He really did.
That's just how he speaks,
Yeah,
though,
but
because he's
I
so
know that
landed.
sort of downbeat demeanour of his, but I mean, even what he was saying sounded like that he knew the writing was on the wall. I think his problem was that when he took over in his first press conference, he said, I'm here now and the rebuilding phase starts with me now, today. And it's like the Forest fans are sitting there thinking, we're not rebuilding anything.
Yeah.
And he was just an odd appointment. You know, Nuno had got that team built to defend, hit people on the break, be a counter-attacking side, and that's complete opposite to the way that Ange ball works, because he wants to be on the front foot, dominating possession and dominating teams, and he just tried to take a square peg and put it into a round hole. It's no surprise to see him get sacked. I felt sorry for him.
Yeah.
I think Dyche is a weird appointment, though. I mean, they want to be progressing. I think that's regressing, if anything.
Yeah.
I just think that that's not the way forward, and the owner seems to be doing his best to get them relegated, to be honest.
Yeah, I think it would be a suited team for Deitch, just in terms of, you got Chris Wood up top, then two slab centre half, Murillo and Milenkovic. You got that Igor Jesus next to him. He's 6'3", so I'll probably play him and Chris Wood up top in a flat 4-4-2. So it'll be bringing
4 fucking 2.
He would definitely turn it round there. I mean, he's expedient, I think. He lives in Nottingham. He's brought in Ian Wone and Steve Stone as his assistants. They both were sort of Forest legends in the late 90s. So, I mean, he was just the obvious choice, really. But how that works out long term, I'm not sure.
Yeah, we'll have to wait and see, won't we? It'll be an interesting one to look at. But we'll move on to the Championship. A lot of Premier League action to talk this week. But we'll start off with something I wanted to talk about. Hull looking in great form recently after last season under Ruben Sellés. They were very much near the bottom of the table, but their new manager has seemed to turn things around. 2 wins since our last podcast. A 3-2 win over Birmingham. I don't know if you saw that Birmingham centre-half performance. He scored an own goal where he sort of just like dribbled it into his own net. And then I can't remember. I think he got sent off, or he did get sent off. He got sent off. So his performance was absolutely dreadful, and then they went on to lose the game 3-2. So he wouldn't have had a great talking to in the dressing room. And then they beat Leicester in midweek. So a very good start to the season from Hull, who have been a Premier League club a couple seasons ago. So do you reckon they could be in contention for a playoff spot just off the basis of how they started?
Yeah, more than a couple of seasons now, though, and it's got to be 10 years. But because we forget, even I forget how long Brighton have been in the league, and they ain't been in it since Brighton have been in. But
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, they have been Premier League side not too long ago, and those 2 wins are against favourites, or at least in discussion to get promoted this season. So they could well be on their way again, Hull, really. And they got Ollie McBurney up front, who's a Premier League, well, maybe not so much anymore, but formerly Premier League proven striker. And seems like they've got quite a nice balance to the squad, and overall the stats are showing it. You know, they've got 1.7 goals a game so far, second best in the league. I think they're conceding too many either. Shows these two games, 3-2 and 2-1. It's not terrible, is it, defensively? So, yeah, nice balance, really.
I'm not convinced personally. I mean, I can remember seeing Ollie McBurney in the Prem with Sheffield United, and I think from memory he got sent off at least twice because
Sounds about right.
he's used to bullying defenders, and you get to the Premier League and you're up against world-class elite defenders and they won't be bullied, and then you get frustrated. And yeah, I don't think he scored many goals, and the fact that he's got a few for Hull doesn't convince me that they're going to put a stretch together, I must admit. But you were talking, George, a really interesting stat about parachute payments that we've mentioned before, wasn't it? That none of the top 7 at the moment in the Championship have got parachute payments.
None of the top 8.
Top
It's
8,
mad, yeah.
which is a real surprise, isn't it? It just shows you can't guarantee anything with money. I mean, going back briefly to Forest, that owner at Forest has got money to spend. He owns at least 2 football clubs.
Yeah,
But you
easily.
can't spend the money and build a team and expect it to be one that wins you championships, unfortunately. You've got to get the right combination in there. So I'm not convinced by Hull.
Yeah, fair enough. But I've just noticed how they're on the back of 3 wins in a row, and they wouldn't have been a team at the start of the season that you'd expect to be in the position that they're in now. I think they're just outside the playoffs in 8th, I think. But in 8th or 7th, I can't remember. Just outside anyway, but they've got Gelhard and Giles. Giles has got 6 assists from left back, so he's clearly doing bits and getting up the pitch and getting goals and assists for them. And then they've got Joffrey Gelhart, who's on loan from Leeds United. He's got 4 goals and assists as well, just to add to some of the players that have been performing for them. But yeah, it'll be an interesting one just because of how long Hull have been stuck in this league for. I mean, when did they get relegated? The season that Brighton went up. So God knows how long that is. About 7, 8 seasons now, isn't it? So a long time, and I think fans will be dying to get back in the league. They've got good support as well. You see it quite a lot. So it'll be definitely a game, if they got promoted, that we definitely have to go to, just because new ground to tick off and see how the support is. So yeah, we'll keep an eye on that. But we'll move on to what you wanted to talk about, Sterling. I think it was it the Friday night game?
Friday night game, yeah, Borough Ipswich.
Borough Ipswich, yeah, go ahead.
Well, yeah, we touched on parachute payments, and what that means is the teams that come down from the Prem last season are all underperforming, and Ipswich carry on that trend. I think it was their 3rd goal only on the road this season,
Really?
that in the 2-1 loss, which highlights a clear problem they've got. I think they potentially not won. Sorry, I've got that on my notes there. Without a win on the road this season still. So
Yeah.
that's a huge problem for Ipswich. You know, they're not scoring many goals on the road. And ultimately, if you don't score, you're not going to win many games. And that's come to fruition. I was thinking to myself, if you can't win games away from home in the Championship, then you're not getting promoted. You know, you can rely on just winning at home if you're a team trying to survive in a league. So Championship, Prem, whatever it might be, you can rely on home form. But if you want to get promoted out of the Championship, you remember those games that Brighton won in the playoff season: Birmingham away, QPR away, Wolves away, Fulham away. You've got to win those games, because that's what separates these teams, because it gets so congested. And yeah, they're really struggling. I mean, that Philogene, we were watching it, weren't we, Dad? He was
Yeah,
non-existent.
really disappointed with them.
Yeah, I mean, I can't really say much about any of the Ipswich players. They were all all very underwhelming. They had that Hurst up front, he didn't do anything. Akpom came on, played at 10 for some reason, played in the number 10 and didn't do anything. They had this other tall striker that they brought on, so that might be why. But
some Spanish,
well, who is it?
some Spanish guy, I don't know his name.
Yeah. But Akpom's a striker. He's a fox in the box. He's a good finisher, so I couldn't understand it. But on the flip side, I thought Borough were really good. Was impressed with Conway up front. His work rate was really good. Pressing really highly and a few nice touches and moments, and probably unlucky not to get a goal contribution. But a big talking point was Morgan Whittaker with his first goal.
Yeah.
Not just of the season, actually, since joining.
Yeah.
So that was really surprising for one, seeing it. And they said on commentary that he was being booed by the fans. And I imagine it was because of that, statement signing, bringing him in. He was scoring important goals for Plymouth. So they were obviously getting on his back, but that'll do massive wonders for his confidence. And yeah, that took Borough to the top of the league. I've not actually looked at the league since the Tuesday night games, but that took Borough to the top of the league on the night. So that form continues. I've been really impressed with them.
Yeah, it's been very impressive, hasn't it? And they continued that terrible run of form last night at Ipswich. I think they got back 3-0 at home to Charlton, which is a shocking result. 3-0 at home to a newly promoted side. I mean, there's got to be pressure on McKenna, hasn't there? Even though he's got them into the Premier League, you can't be losing 3-0 at home to Charlton. But Middlesbrough look a really good side, and I think they did win on Tuesday or yesterday.
They beat Sheffield Wednesday 1-0 away.
Whittaker scored again. I saw as another goal for him. He looks like he's got his confidence back after that goal that you've just mentioned, and stats on Ipswich just aren't good at all. It's a very poor run of form, but needs to improve massively because, as we've said a lot of times with the Championship, parachute payments is a massive thing in this league. Massive benefit and a massive, advantage against some teams like Charlton and like your Prestons that haven't got out of this league for ages and other teams like that. So not using that to their advantage at the minute is really concerning, and getting that away loss wouldn't have been a bad result just because of how good Middlesbrough have been recently. But then losing 3-0 home to Charlton, that's got to have turned some Ipswich fans' heads and gone, is McKenna the right fit for the club at the minute?
Yeah, I think what you said, Sterling's really pertinent because you've got to get out of that Championship. You need to be averaging 2 points a game. And you're not going to average 2 points a game by winning your home games because you're going to get teams coming, parking the bus or doing a number on you like Charlton did. So you've got to be picking points up away from home. You can't possibly get out of that division with less than sort of 88, 89 points. I think when Brighton came up, they had 90, didn't they? Something like that. So, yeah. You do get that situation at football clubs where the manager's voice just isn't cutting it in the dressing room, I'm afraid, and that might be where McKenna's going. I mean, those players would have seen all the rumours about him leaving in the summer. Maybe wondering whether the long-term future is one where he's going to be in charge. And once you get that situation in a changing room, it's hard to turn it back round. So they've got problems. But yeah, it's good to see Whittaker scoring. Don't think he deserved that sort of abuse that he was getting for not getting on the score sheet. As a young lad, he's obviously acclimatising to life up in the northeast, but I'm glad he scored and hopefully he can keep that form going. I think we said before it would be a good team to get into the Premier League, I think, Middlesbrough.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah, we did. I just wanted to mention Hayden Hackney, who was unbelievable in that.
Yeah, I've mentioned.
He was everywhere and he was pulling strings, and that was actually the first time I'd watched him in a game. Because I think it's the first time we watched Borough this season, and really kind of taken notice of Borough, regardless of whether we'd watched another game. I proper noticed him in this one, and they showed his heat map, and it might have been touch map even, but regardless, he was literally everywhere on the pitch, pulling strings.
And the commentator before the game said, "You need to watch this guy. If you've never watched Middlesbrough, you need to watch this guy." And he lived up to expectations. As you said, his touch map was bizarre because it covered the entire pitch basically.
Literally, it was the entire pitch. It was mental.
Yeah, good player. Good player.
Very good player. I had mentioned him before, hadn't I? Just because of him being linked with some Premier League clubs in the summer. So it wouldn't surprise me if he got some links in January just because of the interest he had in the summer.
Yeah,
so
definitely.
Self in the Championship as you two have both just said. So yeah, very good player, and you wouldn't be surprised if he was a Premier League player very soon. But we'll lastly touch on what you want to talk about, Simon. Sheffield United's starting to sort of return to where they should be in terms of results. They spoiled Javi Garcia's return to Watford, and they won on Tuesday night as well. What do you reckon to their performances in the last week?
Yeah, I think Chris Wilder's obviously turning things around. The reason I really wanted to talk to him is because I'm not going to steal your thunder, because I know you're going to talk about Bolton, but Cozier Dewberry, the guy that's on loan from Brighton, they're already talk that he's maybe playing at least one level below where he should be, and that Brighton might be looking to move him into a Championship club in the January window. And Sheffield United have publicly come out and said we want him. He'd suit their style of play, and if they can keep this upward trend, it would definitely be an idea that Brighton would consider. I think Gordon Geard's the loans manager at the Albion, isn't he? He lives up in that sort of neck of the woods, I think.
Yeah.
I think he'd be quite keen to sort of impress on the hierarchy at the Albion just how well Cozier Dewberry's doing, but he definitely needs to be tried at a higher level, and Sheffield United might be the place to go there. And as we keep going back to this concept of parachute payments, Brighton aren't going to send him out there for free. And I should imagine when Brighton signed him from Arsenal, it was on a tidy wage for a teenager. So Sheffield United are probably one of the clubs in that division that can afford to take a gamble on that sort of player. So
he'd be a good fit for them.
Interesting to see how Sheffield United progress over the rest of the period leading up to January, and then what happens with the young lad there.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they're still sitting in 21st position, so they got a long way to go. But it could be something that plays into his favour, Amario Cozier Dewberry, because if he goes somewhere like Middlesbrough, he's not going to play. So that potentially play into his favour. But yeah, good that for them anyway, that they're getting some results on the board and start to climb up the table. I think as much as we said Wilder's kind of a backwards appointment, it makes sense for stability. So it's kind of coming to fruition a little bit, isn't it?
Yeah, he's had a few signings that have sort of suited the style he wants to play, and he's very familiar with the setup at the club and everything like that. So it doesn't surprise you that they've got 2 wins on the bounce now. So it's about, as you said, Sterling, they're still in 21st place, so there's still a long time to go, and that sort of like top 10, maybe even like just mid-table range is so tight. Like, it wouldn't surprise me that if you saw someone from like 12th position just go into a playoff spot next week, just because
Michael said that last week, didn't he? It's a good point.
It's so tight in that league. So yeah, it's a tough point that Sheffield United are in just because of how they started under Ruben Sellers, but Wilder could be turning things around there, and Preston North End away this weekend. That'll be a big game for them. Obviously, quite a tough side as per usual in the Championship. Always a tough team to beat. So we'll have to see how they get on there and see if they can extend their win streak to 3 games. But we'll move on to League One, and want to start off with a game that really came to life in League One this week on Friday night. Sterling, what a game that was for Bolton Wanderers. We've had to talk about them again, unfortunately, just because of how good this game was. I
Yeah,
don't want to say unfortunately, but we do talk about them a lot. But you can't ignore this game, can you?
yeah. Only unfortunately because other fans of other clubs might want a little bit of
Yeah,
discussion, but can't ignore it. It was unbelievable late turnaround. Sam Daly at 93rd. At the 93rd minute with the equaliser. Kozia Dewberry with the assist for that. It was a nice ball in and good header, I believe it was. Watched
yeah,
the highlights on Thursday. It was a header, wasn't it?
yeah, really
Yeah.
good. Sort of like the ball got whipped in. He sort of just like leant backwards and let the ball hit his head, and he directed it into the far
Yeah.
top.
It's all about the ball though, because it was just it
Yeah,
completely was it was completely behind the defence, and it took everybody out, and it was whipped in with pace. It was beautiful, and then 90+5, they just went right back down the other end. Bolton did, and Kozia Dewberry, albeit with a bit of a weird finish.
yeah,
Potentially could have done better. Slotted it home and. It looked like absolute limbs with the Bolton fans behind that goal. We've been in that away end, and it's quite nice and compact. And you're behind the goal. It's congested. It's a nice away end for a winner, and we've had that experience ourselves, and it looked like absolute carnage, to be honest.
Yeah, it's everything we love about football, really. You talked about the third tier of English football. There was nearly 18,000 people there on a Thursday night, and you
impressive.
get to the 95th minute before the game's decided, and it was fantastic advertisement for English football. I thought that game it had everything you wanted, really. Having said that, I did give up on it and went to bed, but
Oh,
I
stinker.
wasn't very well.
So we'll let you off for that reason. But yeah,
Yeah,
I think Kozia Dewberry's proven himself again. Golden assist in this game. I did mention the finish because it was quite close to the keeper and he didn't really dive.
yeah,
But
you
I
did.
think potentially because it was so close to him, he couldn't really dive. He was quite a
Yeah,
tall bloke.
yeah,
Yeah, regardless, it went top bins in the end because it hit the keeper, but he hit it with enough pace and power, I think, to leave him with relatively no chance. And it's a nice run that he made into the box and a good ball through actually by his teammate, and he just ran over to the Bolton fans, didn't he? Hit the knee slide and. Oh, you love to see it, and a massive win for them, which puts them in one place behind Huddersfield. I think it's in 7th, so I'll have
yeah.
a look now.
I mean, Huddersfield haven't started off the season badly, so it's not even a bad result, really. But I don't think some Huddersfield fans were happy with the manner that they lost that game, as you would expect. Obviously, conceding 2 goals in 2 minutes in the 90, just in added time. So, yeah, I think he might be under a little bit of pressure because I don't think Huddersfield have been on the best run of form recently. So, and there's been questions of can a goalkeeper sort of turn his, you know, goalkeeping ability into playing some good football on the pitch. So,
I don't agree with that. I mean, Nuno was a goalkeeper,
yeah, I
and he
agree.
turned out to be more than adequate for Forest to get into Europe. So I
Yeah,
think it's his inexperience, Lee Grant. Really, I think that's the trouble.
yeah,
You got to give managers time, I
mm,
think that leads nicely on to talking about what I wanted to talk about and Jack Wilshere appointment at
yeah,
Luton, because I know you talked about it last week. But he's carefully chosen that appointment, Wilshere. He's had lots of other appointments that he could have taken up. I think he took over at Norwich for the last 2 games of the season when they
yeah,
got rid of their manager. But he cultivated his managerial career carefully before taking the plunge at Luton.
mm,
I don't know whether players like, ex-players like Lee Grant necessarily have the time and the money to do that. I think they might have to just take the first opportunity that comes. But if
mm,
that's the case, then Huddersfield really owe a duty of care to him to give him time to sort of play out the season at least. There's too much short-termism in football, I'm afraid. But having said
Yeah,
that,
they're still in eighth,
yeah,
Huddersfield. Sorry, I
so
just wanted to say
it's
that.
not the end of
Yeah,
the world, is it? But
Yeah,
but when you put it in the context of what Wilshire's experience is at Luton, it starts to make sense because, okay, they lost 2-0 at home to Mansfield Town, so Luton fans would not be expecting to lose at home to Mansfield Town when 2 years ago they were in the Prem. But,
yeah,
Wilshire's had to come out after the game and appeal for the fans to be patient about,
yeah, that's true.
his getting his feet under the table and trying to turn things round there. I mean, I
Yeah,
read the report. They were unlucky in some respects because they had a penalty on half an hour, which Wells missed, and then Mansfield scored either side of the half-time break. But I mean, you think someone like Jack Wilshere has decided after all these years to take the plunge and go in at Luton, and then after the first game he's having to ask the fans to be patient. I just think
uh,
some people need to check their privilege really and think, where have they come from?
mm. After
yeah.
one game, especially, that's very poor. I mean, doing it after one game, I don't get that at all. I mean, I get it if you're on if you're like Ange Postecoglou, you've just like not won a game in like 8 games, but that's his first game.
Yeah.
Like he got, and especially for Jack Wilshere, it's his first like let's say like permanent job in the EFL. So it's not like results are going to happen in a flash, are they? So yeah, weird one,
I think
but
it's
fair play.
expectation management as well, because I saw a little bit of the coverage leading up to the game, and they were really hammering on about Jack Wilshere being the manager. It's heavily
Yeah,
trouted on the socials in the build-up to the actual kick-off to the game, and he was on the front of the cover of the match program. So
mm.
I think they need to rethink their attitude a little bit, the media team at Luton, because it's putting too much pressure on him already, I think.
Yeah, yeah,
Managers don't want to be, or unless you're Mourinho, but most managers, Hertzler comes out and says it. They don't want to be the talking point in the face of things. They don't want to be on the front of the magazine. Hertzler said that's why he doesn't go and get the limelight from the fans, because he doesn't. He would rather have the players have that and him be in the background, the one orchestrating it. You know.
yeah,
Yeah, I watched the manager cam of Hertzler on Saturday, and he at the end of the game, he really is quite perfunctory about what he does. He walks over, shakes Eddie Howe's hand, shakes the fourth official's hand. He comes onto the pitch for a little bit and shakes the referee's hand, and then he sort of wanders around a little bit, but then he turns around and walks off. And I know
yeah,
we've
Yeah.
criticised him in the past, but I sort of admire that, really, if that's what his approach is. I'm starting to get used to him. And
I think he would let the reins off a bit if we were to win something or achieve something, but I think it's very
yeah,
much okay,
100%.
done, job done, on to the next. But it goes back to what you're saying about the pressure for Jack Wilshere at Luton. It's like you're hyping him up as if he's one of the players. Just let him go on and do what he's supposed to do with the team. Give him a bit of time and give him a bit of backing.
mm,
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, be one to look at, and I just think some fans nowadays are very reactionary. And I mean, saying what you said here that they've booed him off after one game, I just said it then. That's very strange. I don't know
it's a
what.
great word to describe it, really, reactionary.
Yeah, well, I have to wait and see how that goes. I hope he proves them wrong, just on the basis of that he's been booed inside his first game. It'll be one to definitely look out for. But we'll move on to League Two. Um, we saw a massive shock of a team that we've been sort of slating at the start of the league season. We put them down in Accrington Stanley, who battered Swindon 4-0, high flying Swindon near the playoff spots and the automatic spots, should I say, on the weekend. But do you reckon, because there was a red card, even though Accrington Stanley went 1-0 up, there was a red card inside 37 minutes. Do you reckon that affected the game, or do you reckon it was just a really top performance by Accrington Stanley to beat a team way higher up the table than them?
Bit of both, really. 37-minute red card is never gonna be a good thing for a team, and it's only going to be a detriment to them, and give Accrington Stanley the edge over them. Really, it's not easy playing with one man down. But I think potentially, obviously, I haven't watched the game, but they must have played a good game, Accrington Stanley. We know how Swindon are playing really well, so I think for sure it would have been a bit of that as well.
Yeah, it's definitely one of those results when I was scanning the paper on Sunday morning that made me sort of take a double check. It is surprising because Swindon's manager, Ian Holloway's got a vast amount of experience, so you would have thought even going down to 10 men, he would have been able to organise them. It's not, as if 37 minutes is nice and close to half time as well. I thought he would have been able to organise them to be a bit more robust, a bit more resilient than that, really. So I was really surprised by that because Accrington Stanley have been dreadful. Absolutely.
Yeah, and looks like they got peppered, to be honest. Accrington 20 shots compared to Swindon's 8, and then obviously 4-0. So the scoreline is very accurate. It doesn't look like they kind of just nicked a few. It does look like Accrington Stanley played a really good game, to be honest.
Yeah, and it goes back to what we've spoken about earlier about the spirit within the squad, because he can be a bit of an abrasive personality. He definitely comes across like that in his media appearances, Holloway. So you just wonder how he would react to the player being sent off and then trying to reorganise the team. He obviously, whatever he was trying on Saturday didn't work. It was a real surprise, that result, must admit.
Yeah, definitely. And got to mention Madden, who got a hat-trick and an assist in the game. So very, very good performance from him. I think it's his first 3 goals of the season and his first assist. So good time to do it in that fact. Yeah, exactly. It's what you want. Find some form. And Isaac Keith with a goal and assist from wing back. He's on loan from Everton, so could be someone that could break through in the Everton ranks in the near future. So I have to keep an eye out on him and see if he can keep up that first that form. But it's the first win in 4 games for Accrington, so it's not like they're on a good run of form. I think it's just a very positive result, which could bring them to a run of form because, as we've said, they've not started off the season well, and I don't think they're going to be much higher up the table than anyone near mid-table this season. So
they're in 20th now.
Yeah, so they're not. Can't see them getting out top 20, to be honest with you. So
they're a weird one, aren't they? Sorry, George, but I just wanted to say they're a weird one because they seem to always be in the Football League, but they're just like
down the bottom. Yeah,
they're just like a traditionally shit Football League team. Like I know, like that's probably partly because of that advert, wasn't it? It was Accrington Stanley. Who are they? But they are just traditionally quite shit, but they're always there.
Yeah, I know. It's weird, isn't it? But
yeah, they're going to have their work cut out to stay as a Football League club this season. I think the guy that's gone in at Cheltenham's turned them around, and I think I said a couple of weeks ago that he would do exactly that. Steve Cottrell, isn't it? So I think the fact that he knows that club inside out was always going to be beneficial to Cheltenham. So I think Accrington are going to struggle. The game I wanted to talk about really was Salford beating Oldham. Not really because it marked Salford's first win in 4 games and put them back into the playoff places. They're in 7th, I think. But I just wanted to touch briefly on this idea of protest, because there was a protest during that game. Because apparently Gary Neville last week had said something about not liking the idea of Union Jacks being put on to a lamppost around. Well, it's around most of the country, isn't it? I know you probably see them down where you are more than we do up here, George. But
they're literally my road. Every lamppost has a every.
I haven't seen them up here, Sterling. Have you seen them up here?
No, not one, to be honest.
I haven't really got them up here. But, I mean, he said that he was disapproving of it, basically, and then there was a lot of talk on the socials about groups called something Patriots or some sort of concoction along those lines, and then some guy ran onto the pitch during the match and disrupted it, and that was all what that was about. But it was a week of protest because you probably saw the La Liga matches when they kicked off at the weekend.
Yeah.
The players refused to play for 15 seconds, which I thought, if I'd been sitting there watching it, I'd be sitting there thinking, well, who's going to make the decision to start playing? But,
Just like automatically run through 5 seconds earlier, just get the ball, run, and go score.
there's some teams I would not trust them not to do that, I must admit. But fair play to the players, because they basically said we don't want to fly 8,000 miles to play a football match, and they came up with a fantastic response, I thought. Fantastic.
And they've sacked that off now.
Yeah, they called it off.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the fact is that UEFA and FIFA, this is probably a podcast for the summer when there's no football, but those two organisations are at loggerheads, and UEFA are trying to think of ways in which they can grow the game at the expense of FIFA, and that's one of the things that they came up with. When this company said we can market games in Australia and we can market games in Florida, actual league games, these don't forget, these two leagues, La Liga and Serie A, they're hanging on to the coattails of the Premier League. They need some way of generating income and interest in their clubs, and they're struggling. But I thought it was a really effective protest by the players, and it was interesting that it came in the same week that in this country we got a supporter run on the pitch of a flag to protest about the politics in this country. So we can't divorce football from it, unfortunately.
I think they should be a little bit more grateful, to be honest, Salford fans. I mean, where would they be without Gary Neville and David Beckham? Begs the question.
The other manager, owner, isn't he?
Nicky Butt? Yeah, so where would they be without them? Definitely not where they are now. So they should be a bit more grateful. And to be honest, I listened to Gary Neville's video about it, and obviously we're not a politics podcast, but I thought he was talking facts. So he wasn't saying anything outlandish. He wasn't even saying he I mean, from it, if you use a bit of initiative, you could probably see what side he stands on it, but he wasn't really spouting political views. He was just saying, let's be nice to each other and let's not make people feel horrible, So I think they should butt their ideas up, because I stand Gary Neville for sure with that.
To Salford fans, I'm not sure if the guy that ran the pitch was necessarily a Salford supporter. I think he was just someone that turned up.
Yeah. Anyway, I wanted to speak about MK Dons 3-1 to Crewe. Dons got up to third now with that win, and Alex Gilby with 2 goals, taking him up to 6 from midfield. So
good player.
They're really, the good player, and they're really looking quite strong. MK Dons, just as we thought, and be one of the front runners for the title and even promotion if they don't get the title. But I was going to say about the bottom of the league, I think that will be quite interesting, because you've got Crawley down there as well. We know we touched on it with Cheltenham, and I think the top of the league will be interesting as well, with Swindon and a few others, MK Dons being one of them, looking really strong. So, and to be honest, Crewe didn't really lay a glove on them. They scored a consolation goal in the last minute, I think it was.
Right,
really late on. So it was a solid day all round for MK Dons.
Yeah, it looked it, didn't it? And Crewe started off the season pretty well, so it's a decent home result for them. But touching on what you said about Salford, they've just signed Fabio Barini, mate. Very good standard. He's never in a million years a League Two footballer. He'll be on a hefty contract. Can't imagine how much he's on for a League Two player. Definitely the highest paid player in the league, you would imagine, just on the basis of how...
He must be ancient now, though, sorry.
Oh, yeah, he must be ancient. He must be...
You'll have to look it up.
But And then you got I don't know if you saw Barnet signed Britt Assabolonga, who used to be
Yeah,
at Middlesbrough in the old Championship Brighton days. He used to be an absolute lethal striker. Barnet signed him. So it's been a very interesting week in League Two. Very interesting league. And
no,
as you said, Sterling, and K Dons are going to be looking very high up the table and expecting to go and win this division, or if not that, definitely be in an automatic spot. And I think the Britt Assabolonga and Fabio Borini coming into this league just shows how good of a quality this division is. Like it will get
strength.
out, it will get taken a mick out of people just because of like, oh, it's not the bottom league on FIFA. You only play it to do like a rebuild and stuff like that. If you actually look into detail on it, it's such an interesting league to talk about, and we talk about it week in, week out. And it will be such an interesting league to look at because, as you both said, this league's so tight from top to bottom, so congested in areas of the table, which you never know what could happen next with a result like Accrington Stanley versus Swindon, which no one would have seen happening, and then they go batter them 4-0. So it's a very interesting league, and it has its tops and turns, doesn't it, at the minute?
Yeah, you're right. It has so many talking points. It's a fantastic point, George. It is so interesting. Fabio Borini, it seems like he's been about for ages. I remember when he signed for Liverpool, but to be fair to him, he's only 34, same age as Danny Welbeck, so can't really
No,
um
back him.
can't say anything about that. Fair enough to him, and I'm sure he'll be a good signing for
Don't
Salford.
forget, Danny Welbeck's 35 next week, I think.
Yeah.
Exactly. He's younger than him. Danny Malbec, they call him, because he ages like a fine wine.
I like that. That's good.
Danny Malbec.
Good way to move on, isn't it? Nice little cutaway to non-league football in the National League. Simon, you wanted to talk about a talking point over Robbie Savage. He's been in the media talking about how he's had some comments directed towards him over his loss at Carlisle. Quite sour comments, apparently,
Yeah,
which is Talk Sport.
we watched the Worthing Forest Green FA Cup fourth qualifier on Monday night, and it was quite interesting because, as you know, at Worthing, the tunnel was the opposite side of the pitch to the dugouts, and he deliberately came out after the Forest Green and Worthing sides had come out. He deliberately came out after that and walked across the pitch on his own, getting dogs abuse from the Worthing supporters. But I think he was taking it in good part because he was laughing. I don't think it crossed the line. But apparently at Carlisle, I mean, looking at the football, firstly, it was a great result for Mark Hughes and Carlisle. They beat Forest Green 4-2, puts them up into third. But it was disappointing that some of the Carlisle supporters went a level beyond what the Worthing supporters had done and got personal with him.
Yeah.
And I mean, he's we all know what he's like as a character. I saw him play. He's got that sort of personality that sort of attracts derogatory comments, unfortunately, just because of his nature. I think at heart he's a really decent chap. And for him to come out and say, sorry, mate, you've just crossed the line there, I think some of those Carlisle supporters need to really think about what their comments, how they're being perceived, really. And it's a shame because it lets Carlisle as a football club down. You know, I've got a lot of sympathy for Carlisle. I think they were a League One team back in the 70s, and they've got the support base up in that northwest of the country to really make an impact in the football league. But it leaves a bad taste in the mouth with someone like Robbie Savage is saying, hang on a minute, you just crossed the line there. I can take some insults in good heart, but if you're going to do what you're doing, I'm not putting up with it.
Yeah, exactly.
Because I think the Worthing fans were just chanting silly shit like, Robbie Savage, you look like a girl, and that's just childish stuff. And to be honest, some of those Worthing ultras are still children.
Themselves, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So it's just very fitting. But I think that's quite funny, but obviously not that they've taken it to a whole new level. But yeah, really big result for Carlisle.
Yeah, massive result that would be, because Forest Green are on very good form under, and Robbie Savage has started off very well there. So, it's a massive result for them. But, the fact that Robbie Savage had to come out to the media and say about it is quite a bad thing, isn't it? Just because you heard it on TNT Sports for the old Worthing game, because the commentators were literally in the stand of where the Worthing ultras were, so you could hear it all happening. Must have apologised about 5
Yeah.
times in the game, didn't they?
That
So
annoys me when
yeah,
commentators say, "I'm sorry if you heard some bad language." I mean, it's like,
Yeah.
well, don't put the football on if you don't think you're going to hear bad language. Because I can
Yeah.
promise you,
yeah,
the language I hear out at the Albion and the North Stand makes me blush, and I can swear like a trooper.
Exactly. Forest Green are actually down to fifth now, and earlier on in the pod episodes we spoke about York, and they parted ways with Adam Hinchelwood because they were down the middle end of the table. Well, they're now just 3 points behind Forest Green.
yeah.
So, I mean, that's getting very congested. And, I mean, Boreham would have just seen him again. That's ridiculous, isn't it?
Unbelievable, yeah.
But moving on, I wanted to talk about Altrincham parting ways with manager Phil Parkinson. Another sacking in the division. I mean, Altrincham are sitting in 20th, so a woeful start. They've lost 10 games, they've drawn one, they've won 4. So no real surprise, but I don't know, because there's been so many of these recently in non-league, hasn't there? It feels like every other day you're sending me
Uh,
a manager departure, and we got more to speak about as well. Do you think because of the nature of non-league and we see clubs can spiral and tumble down the divisions, and the lack of money really, that I know some clubs are an exception, but overall in the non-league,
yeah, yeah.
and the potential of actually going extinct, do you think that could play a part in why clubs are so cutthroat with getting rid of managers, or do you think it's something completely different?
Yeah, I mean, it's a very good point, just on the basis that I think this is the 8th sacking of the season, and we're nowhere near halfway into the season, so it's absolutely mental. And I do kind of agree with you, because you see so many teams in and around this level that are going into administration. For example, Morecambe in this league, literally at the start of this season, couldn't play the first 3 games and had to literally build a squad in the space of about a week to field a decent 11 to play. I think it was Altrincham who they beat in Morecambe's first game of the season. So yeah, I agree with you. It's another sacking, and I think it's just lots of risks has to be taken in this league just to try get as high at the table you can.
It's
Yeah,
short-termism, isn't it? I'm afraid with League Two and for the National League, I think it's all well and good saying Huddersfield got to give Lee Grant time and make it a project, but you can't have projects in the National League because you can't plan for the future if your future is just going to be as a non-league football club. And I think they're just that difference between being a football league club and a non-league football club is the difference between night and day in terms of finance and definitely in terms of cachet and getting the supporters behind you. And I think there's just too much short-termism in there.
yeah.
It's ridiculous that clubs are getting rid of managers after less than 20 games. It really is.
Yeah.
So you agree with what I kind of put out there, that it's because of the lack of funds, and a team like you say Huddersfield in League One, they don't have to. Well, they've got the luxury of kind of giving the manager a bit more
Yeah,
time.
absolutely. I mean, go back to the Albion. We all know that Uncle Tony knows who's going to take over from Hertzner. He's probably got a short list of 2,
Probably
maybe
got
3
that red.
people. You can't do that at a club like Altrincham. You know, you've got to
Not
We want someone in here that's going to get us promoted into the Football League. That's what we need.
Mm.
We can't sit there saying we're going to give you 3 years because we just can't afford it.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, there's been a lot of sackings in this league, and it continues this week. We'll probably be talking about another sacking next week because we'll talk about it in just a second. There's been sackings in the Isthmian Premier Division, and just a few hours ago, Lewis appointed a new manager, so we'll talk about that. But we'll talk about the National League South now, and I'm going to talk about how Eastbourne Borough have appointed former Aldershot manager Tommy Witherington into charge as he returns to the club for the first time in loads of years. Hasn't been there for a while, obviously, from his time at Aldershot. Do you reckon this appointment, just because of his experience in the National League, could be a change in their season?
Yeah, go on, Dad.
I was just to say, when I listened to your podcast last week, you were talking about Eastbourne, the fact they'd not won a game, had they? So,
No.
Yeah,
I think,
can't get much worse,
yeah,
to be
I mean,
honest.
that's
So
what the point I'm
I
going
think
to
the
make. Yeah, I mean, it looks like they've got problems there. I know we've spoken about getting guests on. It'd be probably a good idea to start reaching out to someone at clubs like Eastbourne so we can find out what's going on, because
Yeah,
it strikes me that, they were was it 1 point or 1 win away from getting promoted last season? It was 1 point.
well,
1 point.
Yeah, 1 point.
I think both of them. Yeah,
Yeah,
one
both.
point
Yeah,
and then
well,
one win
exactly.
would
So,
have.
I mean, they've just fallen off the edge of a cliff, haven't they? Yeah,
Yeah,
bringing Withington back in was obviously a positive because he won that first game, but then they lost him midweek. So, yeah,
yeah.
I'm not really sure what's going on there. It'd be good to get down there at some stage and sort of test the waters.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I mean, he's got the National League experience, like you said, George, and he knows the club, so I think can't get much worse, to be
At this
honest.
level, it's not
exactly.
so much the experience of the manager; it's the manager's contacts. He's the sort of players that he
Yeah,
wants there to attract to the club from the
yeah, it's a good
National
point.
League. And that you do tend to find that the further down you get, that managers become sort of the focus of where players want to go. So we
Yeah,
might be
Yeah,
able to attract a better calibre of player to Eastbourne if that's what the problem is. But I wonder whether it's a bit more structural in terms of the club itself there.
yeah. The point of
actually.
he's got massive experience. He won the FA Trophy literally last season with Aldershot. So, and it's not like he's unfamiliar with the club, which I said at the start of this segment. He was at the club from 2012 to 2017 before he moved on, and you know you need someone that. A prime example of that is Steve Cottrell at Cheltenham. He was at the club right at the start of his career. He had a successful managerial career at higher levels at other clubs, and now he's back in his, you could say, older ages, near the end of his managerial career, and he's sort of trying to save the club, if you get what I mean. Because if they kept their manager Cheltenham, they would have finished rock bottom at that league. It definitely would have gone down, but he's turned it around with some really good results, and it's not been a bad start. He got them their first win of the season away at Maidenhead, so it's not a bad result, but 3-0 to Maidstone in midweek, not a great result. But Maidstone are a good side, very good quality, and have had the same manager for years and years now. So you can probably see why that game would have gone towards Maidstone's way. But yeah, it will be very interesting, and you want to see Eastbourne doing well just on the basis of how local they are to us. So yeah, we want to see
Yeah,
results like that going into the back end of the season being positive for Eastbourne. But we'll talk about what you wanted to talk about, Sterling, in AFC Tottenham being on a very good run of form. Another one of the promoted teams from the league below having a massively good start to the National League South season.
yeah. I mean, none of us were expecting it, especially with Charlie Austin leaving
Yeah.
because he was their best player by far last season. But they're up to third in the league on 22 points. I mean, it's a massive result for them against a team in Hemel that are doing really well themselves. So yeah, I was massively surprised to see it, and I just think it's unbelievable, really. I just wanted to mention it, but I think the real question is how far can they maintain this, or how long, sorry, can they maintain this? I think Worthing are going to be starting to creep back up there. Dorking are struggling a little bit. They're going to want to start creeping back up there. So there's going to be a lot of teams that are gunning for them, but at the moment it's going really well.
Yeah, they're really
Yeah.
overachieving, I think, at the moment, aren't they? Because I was surprised they got promoted out of the Isbian, and then Charlie Austin leaves. You would have thought that would have been a backward step for them, but yeah, fair play to them, doing really well. But as you say, Sterling, I think the consistency in the long run is maybe going to undo them. And I just wanted to touch on Worthing a little bit, because after that FA Cup exit, Hinchelwood's got on back-to-back wins. So I think he's definitely proven to be exactly what Worthing needed. I'm still amazed that he was accepted back there. I'm still amazed by that, but he's obviously thought highly of. And
They love him.
Yeah, they obviously do.
You can hear the fans chanting him. They say we got Hinchelwood at Worthing.
Well, they
No.
know him better. They know him better than we do, and I think it's interesting because he was unfortunate getting sacked at York. I think was it 3 wins, 3 draws, and 3 defeats.
Yeah,
Yeah.
The
yeah,
fact
it
that
was unfortunate.
York have just gone on from strength to strength after he went, I think he probably would have done exactly the same there. It's
Yeah,
good to see Worthing doing well.
they're up to 9th now as well. So yeah, just
Yeah.
out literally 2 places off the playoff spot. So
I
yeah,
think they
it's
would have
not too
expected
bad.
it as well, just because of the quality that Hinchelwood brings with his National League experience, nearly getting them promoted. I mean, the only reason they didn't get promoted last season just because of how good Barnet were, the amount of points they got. If it weren't for them, then they would have gone up as champions easily, because third place compared to Barnet and York were way off them. So yeah, it doesn't surprise me how Worthing has started. Obviously, a familiar face at the club as well, getting them promoted to the National League South and the Isthmian Premier Division when we went to watch them a couple of seasons ago, didn't we, Simon, for that record attendance at the Dripping Pan. So yeah, good to see Worthing getting back up there, because they're one of our favourite clubs to talk about in the non-league pyramid. But we'll talk about another one of our favourite teams in the non-league pyramid now, in Lewes, which moves us on to the Isthmian Premier Division. I mean, it has been shocking, to be honest, and they've had to make a stand on it. They lost 6-0 to Folkestone Invicta in the week, and the 3 previous results before that, they'd all lost 3-0. So they hadn't scored a goal in 4 games, and they conceded 15 goals in 4 games. So I think that was the time where they decided to part ways with Bradley Pritchard after a horrific run of form. But they have decided to reappoint Craig Nelson after his departure from Tunbridge Angels. He's back in charge. What do you think of this decision? Because it's a bold statement move. I remember telling you the news straight to your face at the start of this call, Sterling. You looked shocked yourself, but what do you both think?
I can't believe it, mate. To be honest, it wasn't very good for him last season. Past the first
5 games.
10, yeah, I was going to say 10 games for 5 games. He didn't have a very good season with Lewis last season. Somehow landed a job in the league above, flopped there, and now they've reappointed him. So it seems like a very strange decision. Hopefully, the inside information we've got at Lewis will kind of shed some light as
Yeah.
to why and how he kind of makes an impression on that squad and the staff that's already there. And yeah, hopefully we'll have some information and potentially a special guest coming on in a few weeks or months' time that's involved in Lewis. But I can't believe it, to be honest, mate.
I remember when
Yeah.
he got the job at Tonbridge, Sterling, you said how much you thought he was being over promoted. So to get him back there at Lewis, it does make you wonder what's going on there. We've heard rumours of financial problems there. So, and you talk about the squad. I think, as I said before, the squad in clubs down at this level disintegrate overnight almost. It's not like the Premier League where they get built over the course of 5 or 6 years. And I think,
Yeah.
I was going to talk about Folkestone Invicta really because they had a great FA Cup run. I know you talked about it last week and that game against Southend where they probably didn't live up to their supporters' expectations. A great game, lots of support there. But they drew with Dulwich and they've stuffed Lewis on Tuesday night. They've still not lost a league game all season, Folkestone Invicta.
Yeah.
And they're definitely another club that's punching above their weight, I think. But they look like they're contenders for the top places at the moment. But yeah, I don't know what's going on at Lewis, and it seems like a retrograde step. We've been out there a couple of times and seen them play, and there have been bizarre games of football, really. The hashtag game, they got played off the park. Don't know what was going on with that.
Played Burgess off the park, and then
Still game, 2-0 up and got a player sent off totally needlessly and ended up drawing 2-2.
That wasn't Burgess Hill. We watched the Burgess
What was
Hill
the game
game.
when they were 2-0 up and ended up drawing 2-2? Me and you watched.
Cray Wanderers.
Yeah.
But it's a good point you make about the squads and how kind of fragile they are because they just lost their captain, didn't they, George?
Yeah, sent that to you, didn't I? Ian Gale went, and I've got my coach at my college team. Shout out to my college team. Another win on the board. 2 wins in a row now. Give us a little shout out. But he's the coach at Lewis 18s, and he did the old Sussex Senior Cup game when they played Roffey, and Pritchard decided to put out the 18 squad, and he got criticised, Pritchard, just because of how badly financially they're doing. So deciding to put out the 18 squad sort of put some pressure onto him in the first place, just because of the they've got, even though it wasn't a lot. It's not like the FA Cup where you're getting thousands of pounds. It's still money in the bank, isn't it, for a club that's in a financially bad place. So, yeah. And I was saying as well, he gave me some sort of inside information. No one wanted, he wanted to sell Jordan Maguire-Drew, that guy that came on against Cray Wanderers, Simon. No one wanted him. No one wanted him. Their striker Charlie Walker's going. Ian Gale's going. Billy Chadwick's gone, and the squad looks like it's falling apart. But I did see on Twitter a couple of hours ago, that Eddie Allsop has left Hampton and Richmond, so that could be a return. That could be a return, and which would be absolutely top draw. But Lewis are in a bad spot, and they need to respond. They haven't got a game this Saturday, but Pritchard's first game will be at home to Cheshunt. So on
Craig Nelson, you mean?
Craig Nelson, sorry, yeah. So
I just finally wanted to say, sorry, George, on this. It's the exact same thing that happened last season.
Yeah.
So it's just bizarre what's happening. It's just, it can't keep going on like this. It can.
It can. Yeah. We'll touch on finally something I wanted to talk about. Someone that's actually doing quite well at the minute, who started off the season very badly in Wingate and Finchley. They got a 3-2 away when at Cheshunt to take them into 19th place. First time outside the relegation, sort of nearer outside relegation spot for the first time this season. Only in there on on goal difference. Sorry, but I think the squad might have gelled together. I don't know if you agree with that, but that's four games unbeaten now. Do you reckon that's the fact of the squad gelling together now?
Yeah, seems like it. Yeah, and I didn't realise, I could see from your notes here that they signed that Gianluca Botti from Tunbridge Angels, wasn't it? That he was at in the National League South. So, yeah, it seems like it's gelling together a little bit.
That's a real goal scorer's name, that, isn't it? Gianluca Botti.
Yeah,
four goals. 4 goals in 3 games, I
Yeah,
think.
you'd be if you were playing Championship Manager, you'd be buying him just because of the name. It sounds like he
Yeah.
put the ball in the back of the net. Yeah, it's early days. I
Sounds
mean,
like
that's a great
cheap.
result to beat Cheshunt because Cheshunt have been going well in the years with Prem,
Yeah.
so that's a good result. So yeah, maybe it's coming together. It's difficult to tell, isn't it, at this stage of the season? So few games. That's why going back to the managerial situation, it's just bonkers how much there is changed. And you've put a note in our notes there, George, about Canvey Island. They've just sacked their manager, Peter Taylor.
Yeah.
And I remember doing the
No.
preview talking about how, having someone of his experience at this level of football could only be a positive thing. And there he is, gone less than 20 games into the season. It's just,
It's mad, isn't it?
it is bonkers, yeah.
Another one.
Crazy. And yeah, non-league football managers going like absolute flies. It's crazy. Good
Yeah.
coverage of the podcast, to be fair, because it keeps us, a bit entertained. So
Gives us something to talk about, mate.
yeah, exactly that. I don't know how Pete, as you said, Simon, Pete Taylor gave David Beckham the captain's armband for England, and he was the England manager for an interim basis.
Yeah,
So
vastly experienced. Manager at
Yeah.
Gillingham in League Two for a long time, and it just.
can't act the Isthmian Premier Division, mate.
Perhaps
Tough
they should
league.
put us three in charge.
Guess in.
Get the football tip pyramid talk staff going.
Where is Canvey Island?
It's sort of Kent.
Oh yeah, we travel up there. I'll drive.
Between Kent and Essex, yeah.
Once I pass my test.
Lovely part of the world.
There we go. Well, that's a nice way to end it, isn't it? A lot of sackings, a lot of entertainment, and a lot of news this week. A very entertaining week of football, and I think this has been a very interesting podcast to talk about. So,
Yeah.
if you've made it to the end, thank you very much for listening, and we will be back next week as per. Another week of football coming up ahead. Brighton away to Man United. Hopefully, we can ruin their
Eagles.
their winning streak. So we will see you next week, and yeah, thank you from me. Goodbye.
Cheers.
Goodbye. Thanks for listening.
Thank you, everyone. See you later.